So obviously today we're talking about Pro Control. As we say, your new single room solution. Pro Control's been around since 2011, so we're not new to the business at all. When you look at the Pro Control product line, there are two series on our website. There is the R series, and you want to think about R series as kind of being your single room solution, media room type application for those. The Z series is our whole home solution, and the Z series delivers an exceptional, more smart home experience, two-way feedback throughout the entire home. Today's class is going to focus in on the .R series. So basically, when you think about Pro Control, we kind of look at it and said, what does your customer really need at the end of the day? Right? One remote, one touch operation. They love color touch screens. It needs to be simple. It needs to be intuitive. Hard buttons are great in the dark. You have to look down at the screen or take your eyes off of the video. Right? It needs to be affordable. It has to hit some proper price points. And obviously, from an installer's perspective, if you're selling this to your customers, right, you need minimal disruption. You don't want to go back and revisit that project multiple times. Just should there be Wi-Fi issues or issues with the remote. These things can take a lot of abuse. We easily see remote controls go 7 and 8 years on original batteries, multiple drops before they even have an issue whatsoever with them. Pro Control is also about really only what you need, no frills, as we would say. So obviously, that simple screen, being reliable, talking remote to processor, we talk at 433 megahertz, so it's a very solid, reliable frequency spectrum that we use. IR can come out of the remote control as well as a processor, and I'll show you some applications and problems we solve with that. We're streaming sources ready, so if you're using Roku's and Fire Sticks, those types of things, we are fully compliant, compatible with those. We offer a really simple, intuitive iPad, iPhone only solution. So if a customer comes to you and says, "Hey, I don't want a candy bar remote. I simply want to use my phone or my tablet," we do have that type of solution available in the Pro Control lineup. If there are codes that you have or we don't have in our library, you can actually capture IR codes into the library, so you don't have to wait for us to add those things in as products come out. If you also have hexadecimal digits from your old days of having Prontos laying around, we can actually take those codes in through hex as well, and you can increase your library. But it is a fully customizable, all-in-one style remote. And I think one of the beauties here also is it really self-configures. It's an auto-programming style remote. And if you give me a couple minutes, we're going to show you how that works as well. So welcome to the Pro Control presentation here. This is why we say now the time is right to move your business to Pro Control. We are a dealer first model. We do not sell retailers. So basically everything you're looking at in the product line is protected. So we only sell through wholesalers directly to the AV installation channel. The product does come with a 3-year out of the box warranty. We will do 90-day over the counter exchanges should you have a problem. So from a serviceability perspective, we're there to back you up and make sure that we take care of the issues if they do arise. Broad device support. We buy a commercially available library, so you're not relying upon, again, RTI to come up with every single driver, every single code set, and you have the ability to add them on the fly if you need to. And again, programs in minutes, which I think are some of the big push buttons. So let's talk about how Pro Control can help solve the problems that you have in your given applications. One of the most common ones these days, people for whatever reason want their TV above their fireplace. Maybe they've got a sound bar there and the equipment is not located right there at the front of the room. It's somewhere in the back. It's been remotely located. Well, now you run into a situation of, well, I need to control a TV in front of me and equipment behind me. So this is one of the areas where Pro Control can address that by sending IR codes out of the remote control to the equipment in the front of the room. And then our processor can be located in the back of the room or in a different area, and it can control all the rest of the components nearby. From bedroom to media room, don't think about Pro Controls only being something for a common living room, family room type of application. We can do the bedrooms. We can actually do full blown media rooms with Pro Control as well. Complement other control systems. This is the big one. Tons of times you're out there installing a multi-source, multi-zone distributed audio system throughout the home. There's always going to be a room the customer questions and says, that's the kids' room. They're off at college. It might be the guest room, might be the in-law suite. And they say, I'd rather that room not be on my main automation system. How do I control this room with remote control? Or perhaps you did a 6x6 system and it's maxed out. And here comes room number 7, and we all know what that means when it comes to stacking another chassis. The cost per zone just shot through the roof. So there's also an affordability index that must be addressed. Well, here's where Pro Control comes in perfect for these applications. Even though you're deploying an automation system throughout the home, Don't forget that you can use Pro Control in these standalone applications to solve that problem. Like, how do I control this room that gets occasional usage throughout the year? Now you're not talking a huge investment, but you've got great support and great capability within that. We do have a companion mobile app. This app does work inside or outside the home. So if you do put the system on your customer's network, you do have capability for control inside as well as outside the home. There are sense inputs. So this system is very intelligent. We can actually take a voltage trigger input and actually sync up a room. So let's say somebody comes in, manually turns on something, maybe a TV, manually turns on the receiver. We can actually set it up to where that trigger event could actually run the rest of the macro to turn on the rest of the components to sync those back up in the room. So we do have sense input capability to run a macro based event within the Pro Control environment. Intelligence. This is another big one. What happens if you have a toggle IR type source on off, right? We have the ability within Pro Control to track those. Also, what about if you have a projector, right? You turn on the projector and maybe it has a 30-second period where it has to warm up before you can issue the input command. Or maybe on the power down sequence, if you accidentally tap that one and the system shuts down, you have to wait for a lamp to cool down before you can reboot the system. We have intelligence built into Pro Control and programming to where you can actually track the power status of devices that perhaps don't have discrete on-offs. And now we can ensure that you don't double run those macros on a power up or power down sequence, which really makes the whole system sluggish, slow, and the customer is waiting for that macro event to basically run. So remotes are not reliant upon the cloud infrastructure. So if you're doing our basic handheld remote control, you're not relying upon the cloud for that system to operate. The only time you're relying upon the cloud is obviously when you're using an iPad or an iPhone app, because that needs to be on the customer's network. But then also remote access is relying upon the cloud structure. But typically, just to use a remote control and processor, you are not relying upon a remote cloud structure or any type of Wi-Fi to make those devices work. There's tons of memory. Some people say, how many sources can I add to Pro Control? It's basically, virtually unlimited. But we do have had customers that max out the memory by loading, 400 channel icons in the remote control. But in your typical standard applications, there's really no limit on the number of sources that you can put on a Pro Control system. And of course, reliability. This is a big one. When you drop things, you don't want them to break. Pro Control, we even designed the screen slightly recessed within the plastic to help protect the touchscreen because we know people will bump it, they're going to drop it. Those types of issues come into play. So we've actually designed the product to be very, drops survivable. Phenomenal battery life. I've had mine on my desk now for over a month. Haven't recharged it. It gets used every single day. So battery life on a Pro Control system is also stellar. And there's actually so much more stuff, and you'll see that here as we talk about it through the rest of this presentation. So let me feature the Pro 24.R Plus remote control. You're going to buy this basically as kind of as a kit when you order this. It does include the charging cradle and does include your power supply as part of it. It does have a 2.4-inch full color touchscreen. It does work standalone, so just this remote control can be programmed, and you can blast IR codes out the front of this remote control. You don't have to have the processor. So just the remote control itself works in a complete standalone environment. Of course, the power is when you pair it with a processor. Now you can control those devices in a cabinet, somewhere not near the television set itself. This is a one-way IR-based system. We talk 433 megahertz from the remote control down to the processor. We have the wide IR database, and there's also, like I said, local control through the remote should you need to add codes into the system. And it is a rechargeable lithium ion battery as part of this. So let's talk about the processor. Uh, we call this a processor. It's not a base station. A lot of companies out there make base stations that don't have a ton of intelligence. It has to receive all the commands from the remote control, and you hope all the commands are actually received, within that base station. So in our processor actually stores the commands, the macros, and things that it is going to need to issue. So when you work with a Pro Control remote with a processor, the remote control simply passes a token command from the remote to the processor, and then the processor goes ahead and issues the IR commands from there. So as you can see in the picture there, it does have the IR emitter jacks. So it can actually take those and blast those to individual components. You can Y cable your emitters if you need to expand on, or take those out and go into a connecting block if you need to. They are routable. So let's say you hook it all up and discover you've got two emitters backwards. So instead of taking the emitters off the TV or reaching your hand back in the cabinet, trying to swap those around, those are flexible in programming. You can make the change in programming, so you don't have to worry about actually, you can reassign them on the fly as opposed to unplugging an emitter and then having to replug it back in. If you have a device that's super sensitive, you need to turn it down. Those are adjustable ports on there as well. Those voltage sense input ports are in the processor as well. And we do pack out 4 IR emitters every time you buy a ProLink.R Plus processor as well. So it's basically ready to go. The Ethernet port is there if you are going to use our ProLink app for iOS, which we'll talk about next. That's the port that's going to enable that iPhone and iPad control for it. So here's Pro Panel app for iOS. So this is what we basically say is how you control a system using a tablet or an iPhone in there. So licenses. So what we do is we actually have a licensing scheme that goes with the processor. We do include one license automatically with the processor. That's actually a recent change we've added to the Pro Control family. Used to be that you could buy one license up to 5 licenses for a given system. Now we include one automatically for it. And the reason there's actually a licensing fee is, the real reason why we have a pricing structure for this is when the customer brings their own devices to the table, you're the one having to install, program it, troubleshoot it, and deal with it. And it's difficult for sometimes for you to put a labor charge associated with that device to charge the customer, for things that they provide. So the licensing scheme is really designed for you to have a way and a vehicle to charge a customer for your time handling their device. So it's a fairly inexpensive license that you can put some value to and charge a customer for bringing their device into the system, to compensate you for your time in programming, troubleshooting, and setting those things up. So this is what delivers the Pro Control experience on the iPad as well as iPhone. And additional licenses are available should you have additional devices that the customer has. Those are available in 1 user and 5 user packages. If you do forget to order and you don't pick this up from your local distributor, you can buy these on procontrol.com. So this is another great feature should you get onto a job site and you discover the customer does want multiple devices. Instead of you packing up or trying to call and get an e-license emailed to you, you can actually go right on site, right there on the spot, and go ahead and buy additional licenses from the website on the dealer site, and you're ready to rock and roll. So no need to go off site and come back for it. We've definitely thought ahead and kind of covered that for you. So let's say the customer decides that, hey, I only want iPhone, iPad control, and maybe they call you back in a couple months and say, it'd be nice if I had some type of handheld remote control in the room just for basic and volume and channel up down. The kids like to play with the iPad, so what can I do? Well, you can sell them the iPro.8 remote. And this is a candy bar style remote control, no touchscreen with it. So it's a very basic remote control. And it's designed to pair up with your tablets for obviously offering control in a handheld format as opposed to using a touchscreen for it. So that is available for purchase as well. Here are the additional accessories that make up the Pro Control product lineup. You can buy spare cradles. Maybe Fido chewed it up. Maybe you want one in a different location in the room, one on both sides of the couch if it's a long couch. You can buy spare docks. Need additional IR emitters? We do sell those in an 8-pack. We do sell connecting blocks also if you have multiple devices in the system. Charging cables, you can, again, cat chews it up, dog chews it up. We do have additional cables to replace those. We do sell spare batteries for the product as well, should one obviously not take a charge anymore and needs to be replaced down the road. We even stock spare battery doors. So if somebody drops remote control enough times, sometimes that back plate just finally has enough. And if it snaps off, you can replace the battery door as well. So accessories are a great part of Pro Control, and we do have those available for you as well. So this is kind of why we say with Pro Control, it really is the right features offered at the right price right now. There's a great touchscreen remote programmed simply. You do have a free iPad or iPhone app included with every purchase, and it's pretty simple for your customers to enjoy. So if you're looking how to get started with Pro Control, what do I do for my next steps? Well, first, go on to procontrol.com. You're going to find our register to become a Pro Control dealer. Go ahead and sign up. We'll do the confirmations with your preferred distributor partner. Once that happens, you'll get an email confirmation, typically within a business day. And then there's going to be your login credentials for the Pro Control website. Once you're on the Pro Control website, this is where you can come to get additional training. We have additional recorded modules. We've got .z training up there as well. And this is where you'll download cut sheets, information, so all your sales collateral, product manuals will be up here as well. So obviously you can get educated, learn as much as you can about the product line before you hit the street side. and install these products. And then last step, of course, would be visit your distributor, stock the trucks. Like I said, even if you're selling, full-blown control automation systems, this is one of those products we highly recommend you keep one on the truck because you just never know when the application will come up where the customer may say, "Hey, what can we do in that back bedroom over there?" Like, I've got the product on the truck right now. I can program this for you in under 10 minutes and have you ready to rock and roll. So the Pro 24.R Plus, just kind of review the SKUs here, is your remote control with the cradle and power supply. The ProLink.R Plus is your processor and IR emitters. So those obviously can either work independently or together. And of course, we do have a full line of accessories that go with that. So, kind of a summarize here before we talk about the programming side. Again, 3-year warranty. It is a protected product line, only sold through the trade. So typically, you're not going to find this on eBay, Amazon, unless it's an older, used remote somebody's, moving on. But we do protect the channel. We do internet buys, things like that. So we're here to protect the channel, protect the dealers, to make revenue with the product. So that kind of covers the product portion. I'm going to turn this over to Angel so he can actually talk to you about how quickly you can program a Pro Control system. And then when he's finished up, Vincent will take over and kind of take you through some of the advanced features. So from there, Angel, I'll let you take it.
All righty. Let me get my screen here. You guys able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, guys. Oh, thanks, Jim. Let's go ahead and start some really quick programming. So basically, on the two SKUs that Jim spoke to you about, the ProLink R and the processor and the remote, and we'll also add the iPad. We're going to create a program file. I'm going to show you how quickly and easily you can get this started. Some of the problem-solving solutions that Pro Control offers that Jim mentioned, Vincent will go over some of those in either today and then some of the advanced classes that we will be putting out on our webinars. So what are we looking at when you open up Pro Control Studio? When you first open it up and you guys download it for the first time, you will actually see this little bar down here, and you can see there's only 6 steps available to you. So it gives you a step-by-step as to what to do. So if this is any indication as to how quickly and easily you guys can program right off the bat, I don't know what else is. So what do we have here in this window? This is where your Pro Control devices are. This would be your remote. And in this case, we're going to use the R series remote, the processor, and an iPad. So we'll go ahead and add those in this window. We hit the add sign here, and we'll select the Pro Control remote. And by default, and this graphical representation of the remote pops up, the default model number will come up, but you can change that to whatever you want. And I'll go ahead and make that the living room remote. And you're going to be able to do this to everything. I'm not going to do it for all. I just want to show you that you can. And we'll just continue moving on for the sake of time. I'll go ahead and add my processor in here. And again, you can change that if you wish. And we'll go ahead and add the iPad. And now that I've added my 3 devices in here, the only other 2 windows left are here, which is the control devices, as you can see. These would be your sources. And for a single room solution, for the most part, we're going to have a receiver in the room. We'll have a television in the room. We're going to have a direct TV box, perhaps, and a Blu-ray player for guys like John Dawson who's still using the old school media formats. And then, of course, we can put in something a little bit more, up to date, like an Apple TV or a Roku type of a streamer. On this side of the software, you'll see your properties of any particular devices that need to have any kind of configuration. So what I mean by that is if I go over here to my processor, the properties opens up and I can go ahead and start changing out the port names for my IR. Port 1, well, what does that mean? I can actually enter, the IR device that it's going to control, whether it's my TV, Blu-ray player, or Apple television, and so forth. Same thing goes for your time zones and where you're located and so forth. On your remote, the properties will allow you to go ahead and use the drop downs to enable a tilt switch if you wish to have your remote wake up from a line position, or you may want to keep that off, as well as the beeper sound every time you press a button. You can determine how that works as well. So let's go ahead and add some devices here on a control device. These are infrared devices, of course, so we're going to go ahead and select our Samsung television for one. We'll do that first. And as you can see, our pretty extensive database of IR codes. And as Jim mentioned, if you don't have something in here that you see that you need, you can always learn it through the remote or some other hex codes that you might have laying around. I'm going to go ahead and change the control device name and make this something a little bit more user friendly, like smart TV, because I'm going to allow my customer to use the smart functions on my Samsung television. And if you wanted to see a preview, you can go ahead and select on the remote, or you can select on the iPad to see what it'll look like. So as long as these boxes are checked, it will create a page for us and it'll continue to program for us. So I'm going to say, okay. I'll go back to my ad and I will now continue on with my Samsung Blu-ray player. And here's my Blu-ray, most models, or all models rather. And again, these are checked off already by default. And like I mentioned, you can go ahead and preview those if you wish. I'm going to say, okay. I'll go and continue adding on my devices here. I'll go put my DirecTV. And we'll use this device here. And I don't want to call it set-top box. I want to call it DirecTV. So I'm going to go ahead and change that. And none of the pages are selected because sort of generic in some cases. So I'm going to go ahead and select the box that I want. I can take a peek at it and you can see the name will pop up. And I will go ahead and do the same for the iPad. So now I have 2 pages that will program for my device. And the morning session, I did the Apple TV. So in this case, I'm going to do a Roku for Vincent. Spell that correctly. And we'll use the Ultra, which is what I have at home. And I will go ahead and select I want a page for that, and I'll hit OK. And last but not least, I'll go ahead and add a receiver. And I'll use a Yamaha, for instance. Scroll down until I get to a receiver and look for a specific receiver that I want to use. And I'll go ahead and select this guy here. Yep, there we go. I'm not going to give a page for the receiver because, frankly, I don't want my customer changing out any of the DSP settings I selected for them. I'll have all the commands available. They just won't create a page. There's no reason for it. And I'll change that to Yamaha. And I'll say, okay. All right, so now if I told you guys that about, I'd say a good 98% of my programming is done, you might not believe me. But if I go ahead and come back up to my control devices and double click on my living room remote, which is the Pro 24R, I will see what my touchscreen will look like with these particular icons. And I could see that I selected my Blu-ray here, and there are the property values of the Blu-ray. Vincent will go over some of the graphical capabilities of the Pro Control line, where you can change a lot of these attributes that you see in here, whether it's the text color, the border, and so forth. I'm interested right now in the macro. Well, what's going to happen? And as you can see, what's running on the processor, it's going to turn my TV on. The Yamaha will turn on. The Blu-ray will press play. We all know that'll turn it on. And it's going to pause for 4 seconds. And the Yamaha will switch over to the input for the Blu-ray. And then the smart TV is going to be selected to HDMI 1. So this is what we're looking to do. Now, if I continue on here, I can see that now I have my DirecTV. And the only thing I'm missing here now is because I don't know exactly where you guys want to put the rest of your devices. So we don't have the command for the Yamaha input. And this is how easy it is for you to tweak it. So this is the 2% that's remaining on programming that you have to do. We go here and hit our add button, and our window pops up with a list of devices. If I expand this, I will now go ahead and select my Yamaha receiver and expand that, and then select the HDMI 1 or HDMI cable satellite, whatever it is that I need to use for this particular input that I've selected. And if I add the selected item, I can close this out. And as you can see, now I have my input cable satellite. You have a 4-second delay that was given to you, but if you think you need more, you can go ahead and change it here or less. And if you need to add an additional delay, once again, you can just hit your little add button here and select your delay, add it, and close it. And here we go. Now we have additional, delays that you can add in here, and you can move these around wherever you may need it. Now, I can start looking at the rest of my devices here, such as my volume, and I can see that since I'm using Yamaha, it's got the volume up and it's got the volume down. And these green colored buttons will suggest that this is now going to pass this on to every page that we have. Well, how do we see what other pages we have? Right here on this current page, we do our drop down and we can now take a look at what else has been created for us. So there's a please wait page for us, a power off in case my big thumbs hit the power off button by accident. It will confirm. The television for all my smart settings, like my smart hub on my Samsung, and then, of course, the Blu ray and such. If I want to see this at a better glance, I can go ahead and just check out my pages button here, and I can see all of my devices and then jump into any one of them at any moment. So as you could see, I've created pretty much everything I needed to do. And all you need to do, like I mentioned earlier, is to just tweak it by adding any particular inputs or deleting it. And by adding additional commands, it's very easy. Just hit the add command or the delete command if you need to do that. Once you're finished with this, you've had this whole set. I'll go ahead and show you just the iPad just so you can get an idea as to what that's going to look like. If I double click on this, we have what's called a viewport. This ghosted area here, if we right click and edit, we could see what we're going to have on this area here. And here's our Blu-ray player. We can select our macro and determine, make sure everything is working the way it is, or it needs to be. And so again, you can make your changes just by hitting the add button or the delete button and create additional commands on your macro. When you're finished with tweaking and testing, you can go ahead and hit your download. And if I actually had an R series processor remote added on here, I would select my living room, connect it via USB, and I would see it populate down here. And then I can go ahead and download to the selected device. My ProLink R would be connected to my Ethernet, so I would see that here with an IP address and its MAC, and then I would select that to the download to selected device. And then once I'm finished with that, I can go ahead and test my remote. And that's what I have for you guys because your programming is done at that point. I'm going to give this to Vincent so he can show you how you can kind of create some more customization than what I just showed you. But I'm letting you know that now Pro Control gives you the ability to go ahead and program as quickly as you need to.
All right, thank you, Angel. That was a great job. And as you saw there, Angel really showed you how Pro Control can get you up and running in a matter of minutes. You can give your customer an elegant solution that does everything the client needs quickly and effectively. Now I'm going to show you some of what I like to call the power features of Pro Control. Pro Control power features give you another dimension in finding solutions to problems, refining the look of your interface, and really affecting the client experience while separating yourself from the competition. Best of all, these features are easy and fun to use and implement. So I have a system file that's very similar to Angel's. In fact, it's probably identical. So as he showed you earlier, you're just going to click on a remote, and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it. Now, the three areas where you're going to spend all your time are the properties, the macro area, and the images area. Let me show you the images area first, which I think you're going to enjoy the most. Now, since we don't expect guys out there and girls to be Photoshop experts or be able to create graphics from scratch, we give you a lot of canned-in, built-in graphics into our Pro Control database that allows you to really add some flair and some custom to your interface if you're not happy with the out-of-the-box experience. So we give you different bitmap libraries. Let's take a look at some of the libraries we give you. So for example, we give you some channel icons, and we'll show you how these work. We give you some specific images for the remote control you're working on, whether it's the Pro 24R or the iPad or an iPhone. We also give you source and zone icons in large sizes and small sizes to accommodate any size remote. Now, all along, throughout my life as an integrator and now at RTI, if I ever see a bitmap on the web that I like, I'll download it. And most of the downloads, if you're using a transparent graphic, usually they end in PNG. I collect these graphics and I use them for my interfaces. I've compiled a directory of different graphics So if I wanted to use that directory to show up in my bitmap area, I'm going to click on image folder here, navigate to the area, my graphics, and now my graphics will appear in this dropdown. And as you can see, my graphics contain a bunch of different graphics. I mean, they're a little all over the place, but I could use them to enhance my interfaces. So for example, if I wanted to maybe come up with a different Blu-ray icon, I'm going to search using the search box for Blu-ray. And I'm going to add some color to my interface. I'm going to add a Blu-ray icon. Watch as I just basically overlap the previous icon in my button without having to redesign the button or affect the underlying program. As you can see here, my macro is still intact, even though I'm bringing in different images. So all you have to do is drag and drop. So let's go and do that. I'm going to look for a DirecTV, and I'm just going to bring it over. Let's look for a Roku. Again, I'm just going to find something I like and bring it over. And now I'll look for a smart TV. Maybe that Samsung graphic is something we're looking at. So you can quickly change your graphics using your own graphics or using graphics in the graphics library that we provide you. You could also manipulate text. Now let's take a look at the Properties tab. Now, since I'm on my home text button here, I'm going to click on Properties, and I can change a lot of the attributes to this button. For example, I can change the text color. Maybe I want to use a color in the palette. Maybe I want to make it yellow. You also have a very large palette of different color options to get that exact shade you're looking for. Maybe something a little more subtle. So it's very easy to manipulate graphics. We'll show you some more properties in a bit as we create our own buttons and things like that. So that's our graphic libraries and how they work. We also showed you how you can attach your own graphics to the library and now change the home page using those graphics. Now let's go to our images now, and let's go to our other area or bitmaps that we have built into ProControl for our remote. As you can see here, a lot of these graphics have different icons that are next to them. You see here, there's a little yellow piece of paper icon. What that indicates is that that's an actual wallpaper that you could bring in. And if you ever see those yellow icons, if you bring them in, you can really change the look of your remote. Maybe this is something you would use in a theater room. Maybe purple is someone's favorite color. So you can change the look of these interfaces pretty easily. Let's go and look at some of the channel icons features. I'm going to go to the iPad now. So I'm going to click Devices, double click on my iPad. Now note, once you click on a device, they're available for you in these tabs up top. So you can toggle between the devices pretty quickly. Now, Angel mentioned before a mysterious word called viewports. Viewports are areas of the screen that we give you that will allow you to do gesture control. This is a bad example. Let's show you some other cool viewports. Look at my DirecTV here. Why do I have a viewport of my menu commands? Well, the reason why, and if I edit my viewport, you can see here that there's 2 frames on my viewport that will allow the customer to gesture control from the main control commands to the transport keys without having to affect the rest of the interface. So you're creating these little scrolling windows within your interface that can add some functionality without having to make your customer navigate all over the place. It's a really useful feature. And as you can see, we build viewports into the custom interface we designed for you. Here's another viewport that will let you add countless icons to your interface without having the customer go to a different page. The customer, again, uses that swipe, that gesture control. By flicking it to the left, he's able to advance and go back to his Pro Panel pages. And you could use as many frames as you like. There's really no limit except memory. So viewports play an important role in a lot of these interfaces. And you can draw your own in your own viewports, for example. For example, maybe you don't want this number pad and this navigation key at the same time. Well, you could go and click the viewport here, and I could actually draw a viewport on the screen. And now I can edit this viewport and put whatever I want in on the second page of the viewport or the third page. We show you that more or less in more advanced training. But the viewport is a great way for you to simplify your interface, but give your client all that functionality they need. And it's very easy for the client to use. And it feels very much like he's controlling his iOS device in its natural habitat. Let's look at some of the channel icons here. So I'm going to edit my viewport here. Now you have full realm of changing these channel icons yourself. I'm going to click on my images here, and then I'm going to go and click on my channel icons for my television here. So I can go and bring in any channel icon I want. So if I want to bring in AMC and add some color to my channel icons, I can do it. I simply drag and drop these channels. And programming them is really easy. I click on my icon that I want to program. I go to my macro, and now I click add. I want to add functionality to my macro. Under devices, I'll go now and click my DirecTV, and I'll key in the digits for Bravo. Maybe it's channel 321. And we'll put a little cursor enter in there. So it's very easy to quickly program your channels in a quick manner without having to navigate around or do much work. So that's the channel icons that I'm going to show you. You can also do other functionality with your iPad. Let's go back to the home page here. Now we give you a viewport just in case your home page grows and grows and grows, and you could give your client a way to like flick through the different homepage frames without actually changing pages. So we also give you buttons like that match the buttons you see on the screen here. So I'm under images here. I'm going to go to my Shelby iPad images. These are all the stock images that are meant for my iPad here. So I'm going to go and look for my homepage icons. Now, these match these buttons here, except there's all different levels of opacity or transparency. Notice I could swap these out for darker colors, maybe a slightly lighter one, maybe a slightly lighter one from that, maybe a slightly lighter one from that. So there's all different transparencies that you can use to build your interfaces should you choose to do so. If you maybe you have a background that's a little colorful and mixed in with photos, maybe your client needs something a little more solid and transparent, it's a great way to do it. So I'm going to get rid of these little placeholders here. These are ways to align your buttons. The client doesn't see them. They're just meant for the dealer to use to help align these buttons together. So now I'm going to create a little button here, and I'm going to give this my own little command here. Let's say you wanted to do a Sonos player. Now, since this is a one-way system, you're not really going to be able to control a Sonos or see that feedback. Same thing for thermostats and other devices like that. But that doesn't mean you can't give your client a way to control it through the Pro Control app or a way to get to it from the Pro Control app. So let's go and bring in an image here. I'm going to go to my source images here for my iPad, and I'm going to look for a Sonos image. I'm just going to type in Sonos. I'm going to find an image I like and bring it in here. Now, I'm going to go to my properties here. Usually you go to macros for commands, but if you're going to do a URL launch, and you could go to any URL you want, as long as you know what the URL is. And we do have a tech note for finding out URLs, and we also give you a lot of URLs in the document. We also give you some canned URLs into the Pro Control system, and here you'll see Sonos is one of them. So now when the client presses this button, it will automatically jump to Sonos. But even better, on the top left corner, it'll give you a way back to the Sonos player as well. So you can get back to your Pro Control interface quickly without having to fumble through your iPhone or iPad. So that's a way of launching a URL. There's also other devices you could use. Maybe you have another need for another device. Let's say you wanted to jump to your Apple remote instead. So let's look for an Apple TV remote, and you could just go find one here. I could make this launch my Apple remote. So I can go to my drop down here and I can make this open my Apple remote. So just some simple little things you can do with a one-way system to give your client some enhanced flexibilities. Okay, so that's how you can also do that. So let's show you the Roku now. I'm going to go to my Roku page. Now, this is one of my favorite devices to use because the IR commands allow you to basically launch services right through the interface. So you don't have to worry. Maybe your client doesn't want to fumble around through Roku. Maybe they're not technically sophisticated, or maybe they're not very, they don't have a lot of dexterity in their hands. They don't need to navigate through Roku. Well, you can give them direct URL jumps. So let's do this. Let's go and create another page here. I'm going to create a blank page here, and I'm going to call this Roku Favorites. Okay, so now I have a completely blank page. So I'm going to go back to my Roku page. I'm going to borrow some parts of it. I'll borrow this top toolbar, and I'll go back to my favorites, and I'll paste that in. I'll go to my images here and look for my iPad images here and look for that background here that I can drag in. All right, so now it kind of matches what I'm looking for. Now I'll look for my source icon buttons, and I can make these very solid, or I can make these somewhere in the middle. Let's do 30%, which is what I usually do. So I'm just going to create a couple of these by just copying and pasting them on the screen. So I'm just going to copy these and paste these. I'm going to make about 6 of them. Okay. Now, these are all a mess, and like maybe they'll look something like this. How do you organize these to look like you want them to look? Well, I can select these icons and I can align them using the alignment tools on the bottom here. So I can align this to the top of the button. I can also distribute these across, and then I can center them on the screen, or vertically or horizontally. Actually meant to do that. I meant to do that horizontally, not vertically. So let me bring these back up here. And now I can center these the right way. So I could also now go and let's just distribute these again. Okay. All right, so I could also evenly space these apart easily using the alignment tools. So that will apply even spacing. And I could align them again so that they're aligned with each other. And I could do the same thing with this guy here. Again, equally space them apart and align them with each other so that they look good. That looks pretty good. Now, let's figure out what we could do with Roku. I'm going to go to my macro. I'm going to click Add here. And Add will allow me to access several things here called the macro steps. These are little tools that you can use to add some functionality to your interfaces, solve problems with maybe a stubborn cable box that doesn't have discrete power. We go over that in advanced training, but this is where you find all those magical tools. I'm going to go to my devices and I'm going to open up my Roku commands. And as you can see here, they give you the option to jump to several different apps directly right through IR codes. So let's go to our images here. And then for our source images here, let's start adding some of these. So I see a Google Play. So let's look for Google Play and drag in that icon. I see a Hulu or an HBO Now. Let's do that one first. HBO Now. Then we'll do a Hulu. I like to put them in alphabetical order if I can. Makes it easy for the client to find. Let's do a Netflix. Let's do a Vudu. And now let's do a YouTube. Okay, now programming these is a breeze. Watch how quick I program them. I click on the Google Play icon, click on the macro, and now just double click on the Google Play. Let's do that with the HBO Now. We'll do the Hulu. We'll do the Netflix. Look how fast you can program these. Whoops, I did the wrong one. Don't matter, we could easily delete that. And then YouTube. So I just programmed all of these exactly in a matter of seconds and gave my client a nice little favorites page. Let's go into the properties here and let's call this Roku Favorites for the client. Okay? So creating, aligning, making favorites. Now let's look at some personalization. I'm going to go back to my Pro 24R. Now let's look at the way this remote works. When the client hits this power off button here, the macro says it's going to change to page power off. So he's basically going to go to a power off confirmation screen. And this is just a little way of the client confirming that he truly wants to turn the system off. And I've seen Angel's thumbs, and It definitely is going to happen a lot with his thumbs. So power off now here will actually shut the system off completely. So let's take a look at what it's doing. First, it's starting the processor commands. So it's running these at the same time it's running the commands on the remote control. So it's changing to a please wait page. It's pausing for 4 seconds as these are turning off the different devices. And then it's jumping back to the home page. But I don't want it to jump to a home page. I want to give the client a nice little welcome page, something that makes him feel like the remote is his, something that other companies can't do as well or do at all. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another page here. I'm going to add a blank page here, and I'm going to call this my welcome screen, welcome page, I'll call it. So it's a completely empty canvas. Now, I'm going to download a picture of my family or someone's family to my desktop. So I'm going to go to my images folder, and now I'm going to aim my image folder at my desktop where that image is. And now I'm going to select my desktop from the list of directories here, and there's my family picture. I'm going to simply drag it in here, and now I'm going to have a family shot. But what is the client going to do when he sees this? There's no directions. There's nothing that tells him what to do next. So I'm going to draw my own little text box here. I'm going to click the draw rectangle feature here on the toolbar. And we let you draw different shapes. We let you draw a rounded rectangle, a circle, or ellipses. And of course, you can draw viewports if the remote is applicable. So I'll draw a rectangle here. I'm just going to draw it across the screen, and I'll just put some words in here. I'm going to go back to select mode, and I'm going to put some words in this text box that say, press screen to begin. Okay, now that doesn't really look great. It's blocking that nice sky that I want to capture on my remote. So let's change some of this functionality here. First thing I want to do is I want this background to blend in with the remote control picture, right? So I'm going to go to my fill color here. You see the fill color on the bottom here? And I'm going to change it from its existing white color. I'm going to make it transparent by simply checking that off. All right, that's better. It's blending now, but that blue is getting lost in that blue sky. So I'm going to go to my text color here, and I'm going to make this a white button. I'm also going to go to my font size, and I'm going to increase this to 13, making it a little more prominent in the background. I'm not crazy about that border either. So I'm going to go to my show border area. Everyone see that show border? And I'm going to say, no, I don't want you to show the border. If you did want a border, you could always change the color to something else as well, as you see here. But I don't want to show the border. I'm just going to click no. No border, please. Now, one more problem. Now it's going to look like I want, but I don't want this to be handled like a button. In other words, I don't want the client to have to press this and get any reaction out of this. So I want to make this inactive to the touch. So under button options here, I'm going to click on where it says inactive. I'm going to click on yes, make that button inactive. All right, so now he's going to press the screen to begin. But what do I do now to give him a press? Well, I'm going to draw a big graphic on the screen here. Draw a big graphic on the screen, and I'm going to make sure it fills up the entire screen. I'm going to go and make that border color go away. I'm going to make the fill color transparent. And now I have a button on the screen. Let's program a macro on that button. So let's go to the macro. Let's click add. And now on this button here, on this physically unseeable button, right? It's invisible. I'm going to put a page link here, and I can see all the different pages I can jump to. I want it to jump to the home page. So when the client presses this invisible button, it jumps directly to the home page. And he'll know to do that because it says press screen to begin. Now, the only thing left to do is to go to the power off button here, and instead of jumping it to the home page, let's make sure it jumps to the welcome page. So we're going to insert the welcome page here and delete the home page. So that's an easy way for you to personalize your remote control. Give the client a familiar experience. So what did we do? We went over the graphic libraries. We showed you how to import your own graphics. We showed you how to attach those graphics to the library. We showed you how to manipulate the homepage. We showed you how to change backgrounds. We showed you how to import channel icons. We showed you how to add your own commands like that URL launch on the iPad. We showed you how to manipulate the graphics by aligning the buttons on the iPad and the Roku favorites. And we showed you how to program your own macros and personalization. Now, the journey's not over. In our advanced training that we're going to do pretty soon, and I hope you join us, we're going to show you how to do some other things with some of these macro steps. For example, we're going to show you how to use the power sensor to use those voltage sense inputs. We're going to show you how to use flags and how flags can help you deal with those stubborn devices that have no discrete power. Like, in other words, there's no on and off, there's only power. And how do you turn it on and off without, well, flags let you track the status of the power condition. So we're going to show you how to use that. And we're going to show you a lot of other little treats and some power programming options. Again, completely optional. Angel showed you how to build a system that'll be completely acceptable for the client and will work wonderfully. However, these power features, which I just showed you, are going to give you another dimension to your programming, allowing you to solve problems, give your customer a real treat, and let him accept you as his dealer rather than the other guy just showing him the basic features. So hope you enjoyed our webinar. I'm going to turn it over to Jim if he has anything else to add, but it's been a pleasure and I hope I can work with you. Once again, this is Vincent from Dealer Experience, and you can give us an email at dealerexperience@rticorp.com should you have any questions or any design or any help you need with Pro Control, programming, or products. Thanks so much.